4, 3, 2.
Hey, good evening, friends. This is Jeff with Junior Hockey Advisor. I am so happy to be back. We took last week off, and we've got just a lot of things to talk about. We've had a lot of energy from the group this week on getting information to me. I want to get through a lot of it, but remember, this is Ask Me Anything. So at any point tonight, you can chat, you can throw something on, and see where we can go from. It's pretty easy to do. You just get on the chat right now and throw me a question. I'll try to get to as many as I can. So once again, I'm Jeff Colson. For those of you that are new, if you're watching this on replay, we do this every Sunday night, or we try to. Last night, since the pandemic started, last night was the first time that we took any time off, and I'm just so happy that we've been able to keep this going and actually grow such a phenomenal audience as we do this. And hopefully we didn't lose everybody from last week. Now, remember, most people watch this in replay, so if you are watching this in replay, you can still get into the chat. You can still ask questions. We'll try to jump into the questions as much as possible. We've got Joy Lee in Taiwan, which is awesome. We've got a few people in the Michigan area. And we've got Dave in Colorado. We've got Renee in Grand Blanc, which Grand Blanc is the highbrow neighborhood of the Flint area. We've got Jeannie calling in the Flint area too. Let's see who else we got there. We've got Greg. Greg is just south of Windsor in Ontario. So we've got the map covered. We'll get other people coming in too. Once again, Junior Hockey Advisor, what we do here is we talk junior hockey and we talk about the process. We talk about educating parents and players, coaches about the process, how things work, the behind the scenes, how the advancement system works, what is actually happening and why things happen the way they do. So tonight you've got some great questions. We're going to get into a few of them, but as I was getting ready for show prep, I got a couple comments about my different look recently. And so I thought I'd share something with you if I can find it. And here it is. This is the first couple weeks of the pandemic. Yeah, that's me. Okay, so yes, thank you for those that noticed. That's 100 pounds ago. And that's 100 pounds in 6 weeks. So yes, that was a fat ass. And hopefully I'll never get back that way again. But I thought I'd share that with you. And thank you for the people that had mentioned that during the week. It's always good to get some encouragement when you are working at something at work or working at something for a personal goal. So, hey, I can see my toes and maybe some other things. So that's not bad. All right, so a couple questions came in I want to get to right away. A lot of it's having to do with the pandemic, and a lot of it's having to do with things. And Dave from Colorado started something on the Junior Hockey Advisor discussion group, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought we'd start with that, and that is, hey, look, we've got, a lot of things on the East Coast are shutting down. New England's shutting down. Pandemic numbers are going up. And, what happens, is there a possibility? Is there a possibility of any cross-play between the EHL and the USPHL, the EHL and the NCDC, and any of the leagues that are in the East Coast to make things easier, spice things up? Because hey, some of these shutdowns are going to occur where teams cannot leave one state to go to play in another state. Teams can't cross borders, and you're stuck with only 1-2 other competitive teams at your level in your state. Some states they're more fortunate than the others, but there are states. I mean, if you're in Boston right now, things, New York, Boston, things are really weird right now. Things are weird. We're talking about now. There was a lot of chatter about lockdown, permanent lockdowns, like 4 or 5 weeks. I shouldn't say permanent lockdowns, but lockdowns where nothing is happening for 4, 5, 6 weeks. And I get it. So the question that was brought up about interleague play, it used to be there was a lot more interleague play. There used to be showcases that you'd go to. And this is not that long ago, 5, 6 years ago, when before the USPHL NCDC model came into play. And most of you have heard this before from me. You used to have the EJHL, the Eastern Junior Hockey League, which is now morphed pretty much into what is the top half of or top third of the NCDC. When the EJ was around, the EJ was the dominant force in the East. That was where all your D1 talent was, and there was a lot of NHL draft picks in that league. It was a good league. It was a really good league. And then below that, you had some other junior leagues. You had the Atlantic, you had the Empire, and they were all regional leagues. But there used to be things that would happen, and I believe that this is in Vermont. I'm almost positive we used to have that showcase up in Vermont, where it would be teams from all the different leagues would play at the junior level. That doesn't happen anymore. And the biggest reason that it doesn't happen anymore is, remember, the NCDC is not part of USA Hockey. The EHL and the North American Hockey League are part of USA Hockey. So USA Hockey is not going to ensure, at least at this point now, hey, if we haven't seen anything we know now, things change quickly with the pandemic. So what I say could change in a heartbeat, and any logic can be thrown out the window in a heartbeat because of trying to accommodate hockey. And so maybe some of these rules get bent, some of them change. But as it stands, if we're playing by the normal set of rules, you won't see any cross-divisional play between an NCDC team and an EHL team or a North American 3 team. Now, you might see EHL play NA3HL. Now, the reason why you probably won't is because unless it is, how do you say this? If the EHL team blows the NA3HL team out, it's going to hurt recruiting to the NA3HL, and if vice versa. If the NA3 team, kicks the crap out of an EHL team, it's going to hurt the EHL, or at least the perception that it's going to hurt them for recruiting. Right or wrong, that's probably going to hurt any chances of seeing, Tier 3 play Tier 3, even inside of USA Hockey. So from my perspective, and once again, this is an opinion-based situation here. I have no authority on this. I can tell you that, I've been in the junior world as an owner, as a general manager, as a coach for a very, very long time. I'm going off of instinct. I'm going off of gut and just opinion. So this could all change in a heartbeat, but I can't really see that happening. You definitely are not going to get a USHL team or a North American Hockey League team to play anybody else. They're perfectly content. Now, you'll see them play each other in exhibition. That happened this year, where USHL will play a North American Hockey League team in an exhibition game before the season starts. Or you might see before the season in exhibition an NA3 team playing a North American Hockey League team, and that's usually because they're affiliated in some way, and that'll happen in exhibition. But I would not put any real credence into any cross-league play at this point. I just don't think it's going to happen. So just keep that in mind. That's one guy's opinion on this. College teams playing, remember, there's Division I, there's Division III, and then there's ACHA club. I would say that the possibility of an ACHA club team playing a junior team could happen, especially if they're having the same difficulties with games and doing things, because the ACHA has a lot more latitude and they have a little more flexibility just by the way they're structured. But once again, I don't have any ultimate say, nor did I get any feedback from anybody in a position of authority on this, because I just picked this question up a little bit before the show started. Jeff R. jumped in and made a comment which was pretty relevant to this, and his comment was that the top EHL teams could clearly compete with the NCDC teams, except for the top of the NCDC, and that's very true. There's nothing. I don't think that's a hidden secret. You actually saw some of the EHL teams migrate and morph into the NCDC over the last couple of years. Your better EHL teams can compete in the NCDC level. Remember, the NCDC, if you take away their top two teams every year, their numbers are Division III talent. It's a Division III talent league. Their top two teams usually get, or maybe even three sometimes, will get the lion's share of their Division I talent. The rest of the league, they're fighting with the EHL, they're fighting with the North American III, and they're fighting with their own Premier League for spots to get players in Division III hockey. That's just the way it is. That's a fact. It's verifiable, and you can look at that. So that was a good point there. So a couple other things that came up, and please, if you see something. I see Rob's coming in from Sault Ste. Marie. We got Lenny coming in from Boston. Good to see you, Lenny. We've got, let's see here. We've got Dana from New Hampshire coming in. We've got Dave still there. We've got Tony coming in from Illinois. We've got Maine. We got Bill David in Maine. Jump ship from Florida, I guess. We got Robert, and he says the North American Junior Hockey League border is closed with teams on both U.S. and Canada side. Yeah, that really is a bad thing. So anyway, I'll get into some of the comments. I just want to say hi to some of the people that are watching right now as the audience jumps up to some good numbers here. A question came in about age. And this is one that I really want to take some time with because this is interesting. I think we can learn some things tonight. The question came up about age. And the question came up about college players going back to play juniors, okay? In other words, the NCAA is giving players basically a free pass because of the pandemic. If you're there and you can go back to juniors, you have the ability and you don't lose a year of eligibility. Okay, so that makes sense. So what is this? What really happened here? Is this happening? Are we seeing this big, push of players into the USHL, into the North American Hockey League, and is this quelling opportunities for players that would normally ascend into those levels? Now, first of all, there is no doubt about it because there's a couple of teams in the USHL that are not playing this year. There's a few teams in the North American Hockey League that are not playing this year. You have half the amount of players that play, American players in the BCHL that did not go to the BCHL. You have the best quality hockey at the junior level that we have seen in years, absolutely years. And it's because of the fact that we've contracted and we have players that came back down, the American players that came back down that would normally play in the BCHL. And we saw a fraction of the amount of European players that normally come over to play in the USHL and play in the North American Hockey League. We saw a fraction of those numbers. And that you can verify that by just going and looking year over year at the draft, the USHL draft, the North American Hockey League draft. You can see that the numbers are extremely down on European players. And that's a product of what we're going through right now. It has nothing to do with the talent level in Europe. It has to do with travel. It has to do with, if I'm living over in Europe and I'm a parent of a great hockey player, and this is an uncertain situation with this pandemic, do I want my son, stuck in Idaho or stuck in Omaha or stuck in Texas with me not having control to get over to and from to see him? Or can they even get out and then get back? I get it, but the reality is this is what's happened. So we've got this concentration, but how much of an effect did we see from players coming back from the college ranks? Now remember, first of all, the college age is you cannot be above, you can be 20 years old up until December 31st of this year. So that's the 2000 birth years right now. So if you're at 99, 98, 97, 96, you don't have the ability to come back. So we're talking about a sliver of players. There are 01s and there's even 02s, very few 02s, but we're talking about those 2000s who are 20 right now. We're talking about some 19-year-old 01s and maybe a few 02s. But I want to actually show you how this works and to show you how much of an effect this has had. I'm gonna make an argument that there's much more of an effect from the contraction in the BCHL players that have come back down in. Now, let me just pull something up and I'll show you a little bit of this. Let me see if I can get my screen share working here, if I can get that working. Okay, so let's adjust this a little bit so you can see this a little bit better if I can. All right, I wanted to show you first and foremost, there's your, well, that's the affiliated. Let me go up a little bit. Sorry about that. Age-wise, anyway, I'll explain this to you. What I did was I pulled up the rules from the USA Hockey website on juniors. Okay, if you go to USA Hockey, just Google USA Hockey, Google USA Hockey Juniors, and what you'll end up getting into is you'll end up getting to this junior page right here that explains about junior hockey. Inside of that, you can actually look at leagues and teams, and you can get the rule book up, you can get the protected list up, and you can see who's on the junior council. Now, why this is important is because this protected list is the part that I want to show you. First of all, I wanted to cover that age, and there's a block in there that talks about the age of players. Just remember, it's 20 years till December 31st of this year. So we have very few players that actually fall into the eligibility range. So what I did was I pulled up the USA Hockey USHL protected list, and I'm scrolling through this fast, but of all the teams, as I scroll through here, you can see the teams and where they came from. So this is Omaha, and this is where all the players are right above my head. Right above my head, you can see their former teams. Okay, there's only 8 players. And I did the same thing with the North American Hockey League, and I'll just show you that list too. Same kind of list. And there's only a few players here. So we're talking less than a dozen players total fell into this category. Let me see if I can get myself back. There we go. I went through all these lists real quick. 8 players at the USHL level from the college ranks came back to play. Not a significant amount. Now, there's a couple on a couple teams. There's a few teams that don't have any at all. But it's not a significant number. We're not looking at a huge number of college players that took advantage of coming back. I don't know if this window will stay open for next year where they can, the 01s like the 2000s this year can take advantage of it, or, where kids can actually come back from college again. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I doubt it. I'm hoping this is a one-off situation so that we can get back into some reasonable normalcy with this. But it is significant to know it's not really it's not really factoring in a lot. Now, don't get me wrong, those 8 players coming back in make the game better, it makes it stronger. Are players losing opportunities because of this? So because those players are coming back in, are you losing opportunities? And the answer is fractionally you're losing it. But having all the Americans that would normally play in Canada back into the ranks, into the USHL and into the North American Hockey League, is pushed the level down into the EHL. It's improved that league. It's improved the NA3HL. It's improved the NCDC and the Premier because it's all pushed down across the board. So no, there's not a lot. In the North American Hockey League, there's only a few. But what it's done is it's just improved the game. Those few players have made the game better. I don't know if we're going to see any lifting of the age requirements. And I've heard, I haven't seen it in writing yet. I went through the junior side here. If they're going to let 21-year-olds play juniors next year, is that a possibility? Yeah, I've heard rumor, but I've heard people say that absolutely isn't going to happen. So we'll see how that plays out. Once again, don't want to speculate on that, but I did want to show you that it's not as significant as you think. What really is the significance is the players moving back in. Contraction, the contraction itself has made an extremely good USHL. It's made an extremely tough North American Hockey League. And I'll give you an example. The worst team in the North American Hockey League last year was Odessa. I think they won 8-9 games last year. They traded for one Division I commitment last year during the season. So they got a Division I commitment late in the year that played a few games with them. This year, they're sitting on 7 or 8 players that are already Division I talent. They've got 6 or 7 guys that have got USHL experience. They've got players on the roster that are BCHL experience players. It's different now, and that whole division of the North American Hockey League is just chock full of incredible talent because of the contraction. When you take away 5, 6 teams in the North American Hockey League and the USHL, that's what's going to happen. So hopefully that helped a little bit, explaining that a little bit. If you got any questions about that, throw them up. We'll get to the questions on that. I see a lot of comments about what's going on with the different areas. Let's see if I can pull up any questions before I get on the next topic. Okay, here's a question here. Donald asked, let me see if I can throw this on the screen. Should pop up here. What would you recommend for a team like the Sioux Eagles? They're the only American team in the Canadian League. It could be many years before the U.S.-Canadian border opens a different league. Just wait it out with their fingers crossed. That's a great question. Donald, the Sioux, and for those of you who don't know, Sault Ste. Marie sits at the very northern part of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And there's the Sioux on the American side, and there's the Sioux on the Canadian side with a border and with a lock system in between. And there's hockey on both sides of the border there. And the American Sioux team playing in that league, and I believe that's a NOJO team, North American Junior Hockey League team, sitting there. They're an American team. So what happens now? Hopefully, knock on wood, we're not seeing a couple years of the border being closed. I don't think anybody would hope for that. But Donald, you're right. We don't know. That could absolutely be the case. I would think that one of two things happens. If that team can't play, those players get dispersed out and go to other teams. The other thing that could happen is there could be a loan situation where the team can be loaned to another league. I've heard a lot of conversation about next season, if things have not changed, where they're going to put some provisional loan situations in place where teams, and there might be some really drastic situations next year where even teams that are playing in what we call major junior might actually not be major junior, and their players all be NCAA eligible for the season, just so they can participate in a league. So let's wait and see what happens on that, because there's so many things that factor in before that even comes into play. But that's a great question. Fingers crossed is absolutely the way to go on this one, because really none of us have any. Even the owners, even the league, doesn't really have much they can do at this point except hope and hang on, and hopefully this wave comes through. So great question there. There are teams in the BCHL. Jason says there are teams in Washington in the BCHL. Of course, there is one team that's in the BCHL in Washington. I think right now you're going to see that be one of the ones that come into question next year. You'll see Wenatchee in the BCHL, that team used to be a North American Hockey League team. It has a great relationship with USA Hockey. It has a great relationship with Hockey Canada. That could be one of the teams where you see actually something happen where it goes on loan. It goes on loan to the USHL. It goes on loan to the North American League, or it plays an exhibition season in the United States to stay alive until this all comes into play. Once again, speculation. That's all on hearsay. That's on people talking, but nobody's made any decisions on that yet. At least nobody's put anything officially down right now. So Sean makes the comment, I think the Americans going back to the U.S. to play offsets the hundreds of Canadians that play in those American leagues. So there'll be minimal, if any, noticeable improvement in the league play. Not true, Sean. First of all, we don't see the same amount of, especially BCHL level players. Take that league because it's different than the rest of the CJHL. The BCHL is top 3 league. You've got the USHL, the BCHL, and North American Hockey League. That's where all of your, you're talking 80, 85% of your Division I college commitments come out of those three leagues. So yes, there are Americans or Canadians that come down and they play. Some play in the USHL, but not a lot. You get some playing. You get a few players on each of the teams in the North American Hockey League, but you'll see a lot playing in the USPHL, NCDC. You got them spread across the board, but nowhere near the amount of numbers that go up. Remember, you've got 150 players normally that go up and play in the BCHL that are Americans, mostly prep kids. We've got a pipeline of prep kids that already have Division I commitments that go up and play in the BCHL. That number, the last I checked, now it's been a week since I've checked on that, but that number was down to 70, 75 players. So you have that number. Those are quality kids that are holding commitments that are coming back down to the USHL and especially coming into the North American Hockey League. There are USHL teams that are a little bit snobbish on anybody that bypassed them the first time around. So if you had an option between the USHL and the BCHL and you chose the BCHL as an American and you're coming back in, there's a good chance that USHL team just says, nope, we gave you a chance. You said no. And so that player's going to the North American Hockey League. So the offset's not the same as you'd think. And statistically, you can look at that and you can see that across the board. And you can see that there's very few Canadians that were actually drafted compared to normal numbers into the North American Hockey League, and then less that actually showed up. There are some rosters. Once again, I'll use the example of Odessa. Odessa has one, maybe two Canadians on the roster right now. The rest are Americans. And now, you might not see that Americans going up right now to play in any of the other CGHL leagues in mass, meaning a lot of them. There are still some that made it up into the BCHL, but the risk reward to play in the BCHL versus playing in the North American or playing in the SIJHL or playing even in the CCHL, which is a good quality league, or Manitoba, you just won't see Americans doing that in mass like they normally do. And when I say that, remember, the AJHL, 24, 30, tops the AJHL gets 40, 50 Americans playing in that league, but you're just not seeing them this year the way you have in the past. So I appreciate the comment. Might disagree with you a little bit on that. So, all right. So the next part of the question comes up about, the Ivy canceled, and we all know the Ivy League canceled and said no hockey. RIT also fell into a situation, Rochester Institute of Technology, right here in Rochester, New York. Great program. Because all their other sports are Division III and only hockey is Division I, they fell into the same kind of situation where because the school and the athletic department all shut down across the board on the D3 side, their D1 hockey team got pulled into that and into the vacuum, and they said no hockey either. Fair or not fair, RIT's out of the picture too right now. I know they're working hard. There's a lot of petitions going around, and they're trying to do things. But so that goes back to that eligibility question with those college players. If I'm a junior or a senior, unless I've got a shot to go somewhere, I can't really do anything except wait it out. And then the question becomes, let's say I'm a junior and I've been playing hockey. They cancel my year. I'm getting ready to graduate. People are concerned, does that player stay around for an extra year? If I'm a senior right now and I'm graduating, do I stay for an extra year? And the question is, I really believe you're going to see very few of those kids in the Ivy League stick around for another year. Remember, there's absolutely no scholarship money at the Ivy level. None. Okay, it's a pay-as-you-go league. And yes, you can get money, but you have to compete for academic scholarships against every other Ivy student across the board. Now think about that. You're a hockey player. You've had to focus on hockey and academics, going up against the best of the best of the best in the world that are going to these Ivy League schools. You're not getting much academic money. Very few hockey players. In fact, I would venture to say the number is less than 1% are getting any kind of academic money. Now, you can get some financial aid. Financial aid is available, but you're not getting that in the form of money you don't have to pay back. It's actually low interest student loans. So if I'm a senior, why would I stay around one more year unless there's a reason for it, unless I can get a graduate degree and stay around for one more year and knock off a year of my graduate or maybe my whole graduate program, unless my coach says, hey, look, if you stick around for one more year, I'm pretty sure you're going to be playing, a high-level pro, and you've got a relationship with a coach that you believe that that's going to happen. Besides that, but once again, let's be honest. The Ivy League is not a large producer of NHL talent. It's just not the league they go to. So I don't see overall. Are there going to be exceptions? Yes. I don't see this mass of players that logjam the system because of this. Now, the younger players, the freshmen and the sophomores, yes, will they take advantage of that year of eligibility? Yes, because then they can always transfer out and use that eligibility somewhere else if a scholarship opens up somewhere else at a quality school. So yes, I can see that happening at the lower levels, but not your juniors and seniors. I just don't see that happening or coming into play. So I hope that helps a little bit on that. But once again, this is all speculation. This is all opinion. This is all going off a little bit of logic and a little bit of experience. But this all could change in a heartbeat depending on how things play out. But you won't see much money at the Ivy League level, so I don't see. And for those that don't know, RIT falls under the category of non-scholarship school too because of the way they came into the NCAA. So even though that Atlantic League has money, there's still two schools, one's in Atlantic, one's not, that don't give athletic scholarships, and that's outside of the Ivy. And that would be Union, and that would be RIT. So you still have two schools out there that don't have any kind of athletic scholarships going on. So let's see what else we got going on with some questions here. With the potential of additional players not able to head north to Canada, what are your thoughts on the potential reoccurring or something like the NAHL in the East, where teams move Central East, like Michigan, where several lost that? It came off the screen too. I'm not really sure I'm getting this. Are you saying some restructuring where the NAHL goes into some other areas next year? Robert, give me a little more on that if you can in your comments. I'd be glad to try to answer it. But I think what you're asking is, can we see some more NAHL level teams? Well, remember, the NAHL and the USHL work hand in hand. For many reasons, the NAHL has not been successful in Michigan. And I'll give you some of the reasons why. One is you've got a very successful team in Muskegon. And you're not going to see a NAHL team around there. And pretty much, if you notice the way the map works, USHL doesn't really compete with North American Hockey League markets, and the North American Hockey League markets don't compete with the USHL. For the most part, that's the way it works. And you see very few borders that clash. You get some up in the Minnesota area. But what don't you see in Minnesota? Even though there's NAHL presence there, you don't see USHL presence there, and that's by design. But remember, the Michigan also has the NCDC with two high-level teams out of there. You've got Muskegon, so you've got three high-level USHL teams that are playing in Michigan already. Then you've got two OHL franchises right there with Saginaw and Flint that are right there. Then across the border, you're sitting on, Sarnia sitting right there, and then you've also got Windsor sitting right there too. So you've got such an influx of high-level junior teams. Now, what happens there is, because that market can be picked, you'll get a mid-level grinder player that end up playing the OHL that'll come out of the Michigan markets because they're noticeable. They're seen a lot more. So you'll get a lot more of a there's years where Honeybake puts 4 or 5 guys into the OHL. So I don't see any competition with the North American Hockey League. The North American Hockey League has been there. It's been in Flint. I believe they used to see one in Alpena. I think even saw one up on towards Charlevoix Gaylord area. There used to be a NAHL team up there somewhere too, but they never seem to stick. It's very, very difficult to get a NAHL team to work in Alpena or Sheboygan or anywhere up in there, but just because of the fact that you need fans, you need a fan base. The NAHL, for the most part, Now, with the exception of the East Coast, and that's another discussion. We'll have that on another show on why you can't have. It's a different model for NAHL teams when you go into the Boston market, you go into the New Jersey market where some of those teams are at. So I don't see it happening. You've already seen contraction. The franchises will come back that contracted this year. They only took a year off. But I think you'll see New York, New Jersey, you'll see Boston, you'll see Pennsylvania develop NAHL teams before you'll see anything develop in the Michigan market. So hope that helps a little bit, Robert. That's a great question. If I hit it right, I see a yes on your comment. So I'm hoping I answered that the right way across the board. I am trying my best to put something together, and I apologize for those of you that are still looking for, my BCHL report. You're looking for my AJHL report. You're looking for my breakdown and analysis of the USHL and the NAHL. It's got to flush out a little bit more. Remember, we're just locking in the rosters. We haven't even got our affiliate lists together yet. We haven't really, from what I've noticed so far, we really haven't locked down with our hard 23s at the USHL, meaning here's their firm 23 players, the firm 25 at the NAHL level, and the BCHL hasn't even really started yet. So until all that stuff happens, it's very hard to get any assessment or analysis on this, but it's coming. I'll get there as soon as I can, and I appreciate you guys being patient with that. So I think I answered most of the questions. I do know what we've got coming up soon, though. I want to thank Andrew. Andrew is our new, I don't want to use the word intern because Andrew's been at this game as long as I've been at it. Andrew's in the military. He's up in the east of Quebec in the Canadian military, and he's been doing phenomenal research. So we're going to actually put some numbers out, and we're going to talk and assess about the impact of the WHL. We're going to talk about the impact of some of the major leagues and how the draft affects players there and what actually happens to those players. So we got some fascinating statistics and some numbers coming up pretty soon, and it'll tell the story. And the story, just like we look at the USHL, what does it mean to go in the first round versus going in the fourth round versus going in the eighth round? We're going to look at all that. Andrew's done a phenomenal job of breaking down, what it means, and we're going to also study some of the separate leagues. We're going to actually go in depth for the first time into Manitoba. We're going to look at the MJHL and the effect over the last 20 years. What's happened in that league? What's it transitioned into? Where does it fit in the world of hockey? And where does it fit into as a player that falls in the CJHL below the major junior level? And we're going to look again at Alberta. We're going to look at the CCHL. We got a lot of stuff coming up, but we need time to let all this stuff flush out a little bit because this pandemic has kind of thrown us all across the board. So Tim throws up the question, do you think Kansas City NAHL franchise will return after this season? Tim, that's a great question. I had a little bit of an insight, more insight into Kansas City up until recently because my nephew was one of the coaches there. He's in Youngstown in the USHL now. So I don't have my inside track as much on Kansas City. But remember, Kansas City is owned by an NFL football team family, okay? When you have that kind of money, I don't think money is an issue like it with other franchises. Some franchises shut down because they could not economically figure out a way to make this feasible with travel, with restrictions, with a bubble, and it just didn't make sense. And so they said, no, we just can't do this because of where they were at. In this situation, I think the way I'm reading this is they wanted to treat their athletes similar to the way they treated their NFL athletes. And they said, we cannot treat these athletes the same way. We don't have the control. We don't have the safety precautions that we can have with an NFL. I'm sorry, NFL, not football, not NHL. I hope I didn't say NHL. If I did, I didn't mean it. So if you've got an NFL football family owning the team, I think they said the safest way to handle this is to shut down for the year. So my opinion on this is they're going to be back next year and they're going to be strong next year and they're going to be a viable member of that Southwest division now that the Southwest has added Wichita, maybe they move Kansas City into the Midwest or whatever happens. Wherever they're at, I do believe they're coming back to the North American Hockey League, and I do believe they'll be strong in whatever their role is there. So hope that helps a little bit. Any other questions out there, folks? Yeah, I'll be glad to jump into anything I can here. We've been going at it for 40 minutes, and I don't know if there's any other topics out there you want to discuss or talk about, but I'll be glad to jump into any subject. I think I covered everything. We talked about interleague play. We talked about the age rules for juniors. We talked about seasons canceled. We talked about the Ivies being canceled and players coming back, the college players coming back. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover, and those are all of your questions that I was trying to get on the board. So, hey, Jeannie, thank you. Yes, I did have a great birthday today. Best part of the birthday, though, is being on the show and talking to all you. I really do enjoy this. This, to me, is a lot of fun. So, Fred came in with something here. Let's see if I can read this quick and see where Fred's going with this. So Fred says, in Canada, a few players that would be CHL major juniors are playing in the CJHL. That's an issue. The CHL and some of it is planning to start up in January. Yeah, we know that the major juniors are going to try to start up in January, February. Not sure why CJHL teams would sign a player committed to the major junior level and would lose them after Christmas. I know players from Canada continue to travel to USH. I'm having a hard time reading this just because it's so small. I don't have my glasses on. I'll throw it up this way. Okay, I know players from Canada continue to travel to USHA to play in the NAHL and the USHL. 3 from my town of Portage at La Prairie. Got some names of some of the players. So let me give you a little bit of an assessment on this and why. First of all, it's not uncommon. Teams like the Brooks Bandits up in the AJHL have always found a way to get several players to, and they've got great relationships with the WHL, so they'll get players that are former WHL players. And remember, the CJHL is not as concerned about NCAA eligibility as American programs are. The NAHL, although there are some players in the NAHL and there are some players in the USHL this year that have no NCAA eligibility, you wonder why they're playing in the NAHL, or you wonder why they're playing in the USHL. Well, some of these players will play there, then they'll leave to go to the East Coast League, or they'll leave to go play in Europe. They'll play in Sweden or some other league, and they're using it for one more year of development. And I don't understand that always. That doesn't always make sense to me. Now, there is, first of all, we don't know for sure if I'm a player, and remember this loan situation, these players are being loaned to CGHL teams. So they're being loaned to AJ franchises, they're being loaned to BCHL franchises. For the most part, that's where you're seeing this. I don't know how much we're seeing loaned to CCHL or to OJHL teams. I haven't gotten into that yet. Mostly a West Coast thing right now. But why would Brooks do it? Because Brooks is trying to win another championship. And if they can have 3 or 4 guys on their team that are better than the majority of their roster, not all their roster, but better than the majority of their roster, and they're strong players that can help them win games, November, December, get them and play them. It's no different than an American Hockey League franchise getting players that are drop downs from the NHL. Yeah, you might only get them for 4 or 5 games. You might get them for 10 games. But, of course, if it's strengthening your roster, remember, these teams have fan bases. Remember, the CGHL has to put butts in seats to stay viable. To put butts in seats, if you got better players, and if people go, wow, there's 4 people from the WHL on our team, or 3 guys from the WHL on our team this year, or for the next 5 games, let's go see how good they are. Why not? Why not? So I don't see this as a conflict. I don't see this as something that mystifies me. If I'm a coach, or if I'm a general manager, if I'm an owner, and I get a chance to put some better players on my roster legally for a short period of time. And remember, we're not sure that WHL is going to start up again. Everybody's hoping it starts up. They've got a projected start date. But what happens if the BCHL starts up and the WHL doesn't? What happens if they postpone it another week, month, for the rest of the year? grab those players, play them before somebody else does. And that's the way I see that. I think that's the way this is being looked at it from a business equation. Hey, if 3 players from the WHL equates to, even in Manitoba, if a couple players on your roster equates to putting 50 more people in your stands, you're going to do it. If that means that you get 20 more people in the stands per home game, you're going to do it. If it adds more hype to your roster, and if it gets other people interested in watching your games and more people coming to watch from the scouting perspective, it's a win-win across the board. And why should those kids in the WHL have to wait if there's opportunities there to play? And you can say, yeah, they're getting pushed down, but remember, the BCHL has room right now. The AJ has room because those Americans aren't there. So there's room on those rosters. Let it happen. Let it play out. At least my opinion is it's a business decision to win games. It's a business decision to put butts in seats. That's pretty much the way I see it across the board. So, anybody else? Any questions? If not, I had a great night tonight. Thank you for the birthday wishes, Jeannie. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Please, if you're watching this on a replay, throw your comments in. We'll get on your comments just as quick as we can. We'll try to answer your questions. And don't forget, if you're an industry professional, we've got a new class opening up on our industry professional, soup to nuts, everything you need to know to be in the scouting world and in the general manager world and the coaching world to try to help you become better at this. Those classes are opening up again real soon. You can DM me directly. I'll get you information on those if you want to head that way. So, Lenny, thanks for asking, how did I lose the weight? 6 weeks, over 100 pounds down. A couple of things. One is I've limited my diet to probably averaging about 1,300 calories a day. Sounds crazy, yeah, but that's where we're at. And I'm working out 3-4 times a day. I'm on the Echelon, which is like a Peloton, but it's a blue collar poor man's Peloton. Riding the heck out of that thing and going for walks. Yesterday I went for an 8-mile walk. So doing anything I can to stay active, getting my butt out, getting it moving, exercising, eating right. And now it's hard. Now I lose 1 pound in a 3 or 4 or 5 day period. I feel like I'm hitting home runs. At first it all fell off like crazy. So thanks for asking. And we will see you all next week. I'll throw some comments on to some of the people that threw some things on at the end. And I'll try to jump on that later. Once again, thank you for watching tonight and have a great night, everybody.